Welcome back to Naruto Anime Review Special number 14. This one I'm reviewing, as far as I can tell, the last of the English release of the Naruto light novels. Because here I'm discussing Itachi's story Midnight. Yep. Excuse me. I believe this thing came out just a couple years ago, I think it was. It was... Well, this is the fifth printing, but... Yeah, this came out roughly almost a little over 4 years ago, this one was. And this book is a follow-up to this book, which I reviewed this book 3 years ago, which was actually my last light novel I reviewed. So yeah, here we go. Both Itachi light novels. Now, with this one, it's more basically exploring of Itachi's time with the Anbu Black Ops. Or apparently he worked for Danzo's version of the Anbu Black Ops, the Foundation, which is something that they never actually brought up on the show. And also, the girl who had a thing for him in the show, Izumi, who his father suspected was his girlfriend. She gets a tiny bit more to do here. And mostly put, if you watch the show, you might be like, wow, a lot of this stuff is very familiar. Mostly put, a lot of this is basically, you can think of it as sort of expansion upon stuff that's established in the show. There is one scene, however, in this book basically didn't happen in the show, mainly because they changed who killed Izumi, because in the show, it was the fake Mandarin who killed her. In the book, it was Itachi. Right after he put her under a genjutsu, where they became a family, where they got married and had kids. And then just before he killed her, which she actually appreciated him doing this. Yeah, she said, thank you. And he said, thank you. And then he killed her during the Uchiha clan massacre, which the way it's presented in the book is very similar to presented in the show, but slightly different. As a matter of fact, you don't see the fake manager Uchiha's contribution to this. If you don't know who the fake manager here is, basically he's Obito Uchiha, who's posing as him. Yep. And here we also see him, well, apparently when he committed the massacre, he apparently was about 12 years old, which, damn, I was pretty young. That's equivalent to basically like when Naruto graduated from the Ninja Academy. And here's something you might not know. Apparently Itachi ran into Naruto before he met him on the show. Because everyone thinks, oh yeah, the first time Itachi ever met Naruto was at the hotel he was staying at. He was bringing along, what was his partner's name? Katsu. Yes, Katsu's his partner. People probably think that was the first time Itachi ever met Naruto. This book establishes, no. That actually was wrong. I don't know if this was a retcon or the fact this is basically set before the official meeting. Probably the reason why Naruto doesn't know of Itachi, because of the fact he looks like Sasuke, obviously. You know about my reputation. But he does probably, this is probably from his perspective, the first time he's ever met. He probably doesn't remember him before. And Naruto does appear in this book briefly for about 1 page. He's mentioned several times in the book. And also, Shishi Uchiha, Itachi's best friend in the Uchiha clan, they actually give him a little more screen time in the book. Like, wow. It's like, yeah, it's basically like very brief in the show. Because in the show's backstory, where they explain Itachi before the massacre happened, that he actually was suspected of killing him, even though he committed suicide after he had his encounter with Danzo. And the fact that also, Itachi hated Danzo. Yeah, he really hated Danzo. I'm thinking though, like, why the heck would he work for... Well, technically, he originally, for Abu, he was in charge. He was working directly for the Hokage. And then when he became a team captain at the age of 12... Yeah, he joined the Abu Black Ops at the age of 11. By the way, Kakashi is in this book. Yes, Kakashi is here. Also, Yamato is here, except this is when he was period of time when he was Tenzo. So, great little nod there. I don't mind Kakashi being here because, well, it's been established in the show that, well, he was a member of Black Ops at the same time Itachi was. So, Nothing really much different there. Um, Here's the thing about Kakashi and Tenzo's parents. Kakashi's only in like a single, like only a handful of pages, but at least he's here. And same thing with Tenzo. They mentioned about his wood jutsu, which I love the fact they brought up, and the fact he actually uses it. Yep. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, the infamous scene where where Itachi's being interrogated by three people from the military from the police force. Well, it's presented pretty much the same way, except that there's no Sasuke in this scene. Yes, this is different in the light novel. This is another change they made to the show, where I think they did draw from actual source material. You see, in the show, it was Sasuke that basically telling Itachi to stop what he was doing, and that's a cause to change his mind. Here, Sasuke is not in the book very much, surprisingly. If you're a fan of Sasuke Uchiha, and even though, yes, it's focused on his older brother Itachi, you'd probably be shocked of his limited screen time in here. For good reason, because this is all about Itachi, not about Sasuke. And in the case of right after the Uchiha Clan Massacre, we can actually get an expanded conversation from the... If you watch the show, Itachi had a brief conversation with Third Hokage right after he left, where he was promised that Sasuke would be left completely unharmed because he had nothing to do with the coup d'etat. Yes, which, okay, that's perfectly fine. It's not really much issue with that. And he mentions he has interest in the Akatsuki. In the show, it was, the Third Hokage who suggested Itachi join the Akatsuki, while here, Itachi was interested in the Akatsuki, and then later on he does join the Akatsuki by the end of the book. So yeah, this overall is a really good book. Now, the thing is, yes, they did make changes in the show, which, fine, they adapt this novel loosely for the anime. But I gotta say, it's pretty good. One scene actually does not exist in the book, in the show at all, is Azumi, that's the name of the girl who's got a thing for Itachi. She actually briefly meets Itachi's father. Yes, has a brief conversation with him. This is when Itachi's on a mission. I'm like, why wasn't this scene in the show? This would have been interesting. Nope, didn't include it. Now, I get why the other one was actually a change. Okay. I guess the reason why they include the other one where Itachi are under Genjutsu, probably because basically, I don't know why Parrot did it for. Well, this book is actually pretty good. It's not very long. If you're curious how long this book is, it's only 202 pages. You probably think, really? Just over 200 pages? Wow. I mean, is it longer than the original one? Yes. Yes, it is. Yeah. The original book is roughly 165 pages. This book is roughly 40 pages longer. But yeah, this is the entire Itachi story. And I did recommend it basically for checking out these books because, I'm showing off the first book here because, I did review this one 3 years ago. But both books are really good. I give this book roughly a 9.5 out of 10. Now, I'm going to show up basically the rest of the light novels. This was actually the fourth one I reviewed. Now, if you're curious though, actually it's the fifth one. What was the first book I reviewed? I reviewed this for special number 7, the Kakashi light novel. Yes, I kind of wish this one was adapted for the show because this was fun. Yeah, it's been expanded upon with this one primarily from the book. Basically, it establishes that the 5th movie is semi-canon. They established also in Boruto as well, where there's this woman with this freezing jutsu, and they put her in charge of the prison. Yes, the Boruto anime does contradict this book itself, but this book was actually really good. It's mostly focused on Kakashi and believe it or not, Mike Guy. Now, this book was adapted for the show. They kept most of this book intact, except they cut out a lot of screen time for Naruto. If you watch the anime, Naruto had one brief scene where basically him and Shikamaru talking, and Naruto's got a toothbrush in his mouth, which that's kind of weird. Why bring a toothbrush outside for? Yeah, you probably think, oh, was that it for him in the book? No, he has a lot more screen time. And it's even a joke like, oh, Sakura telling Naruto, go bother Hinata. And this book was actually the first light novel I bought for Naruto, because this book was the one light novel I really wanted to read as soon as I got my hands on it. The reason why, because it takes place after the film The Last. Roughly about 2 months afterwards. And yes, it's focused on Sakura, but this book was really good. This actually was one light novel I was actually looking forward to reading, because my friend Edgar, basically, he loves it. And it's a shock this one was not adapted for the anime. That's how good it was. Now, in Japan, what came next after these two books? It was Gaara, Hidden Leaf Story, and Akatsuki. But here's the problem. They were released here for some strange reason. Instead, we had this book next. And by the way, this actually was the first book adapted. This actually was, well, if you think about it, these two books right here were loosely adapted for the series. And then it was this book. And then this one, which actually caught up to the adaptation when I catch up with the anime. And then, of course, you had this book right here, which was the next book I read. This book was actually really good. Yeah. Surprisingly, this actually was written by the guy who wrote New Akatsuki. And it was like a second book to feature Sasuke, but the first one, he gets a story feature for him. Yep, first one for him. Now, Sasuke himself is featured in... He's briefly mentioned in this book here. He doesn't make a physical. I think he appears once briefly in the book, but mostly he gets brief mention here and there. And of course, after I did that one, I reviewed this one, obviously. And after the Itachi one, after this book was released, there was a second book released for several years. Well, that wasn't until they released these three books. Books that were set in the era of Boruto. First was this one right here. And this one was adapted for the show. One of two adapted for the show that would be in Steam Ninja Scrolls, which surprisingly that was not been released. This actually was one of the most recent books they released in Japan. Yeah, it was part of the Reshon series, I think it was. Yep. And they adapted almost this entire book except for like one chapter, which I thought that was kind of dumb. And you have, not that one, this one came next. This one was really good. I thoroughly enjoyed this one when I read it. And surprisingly, these light novels are really short. Like, this one is actually the longest one of these three books here. Yeah, of this trilogy of books. This one is 160 pages. The Sasuke one, it is roughly 146, was slightly shorter. And then you have Shikamaru. This one is a bit longer. This one is roughly 156 pages. And then, of course, you have this one. Yeah, it's interesting, though. I reviewed a lot of these light novels in release order. The only one I didn't review in order was Itachi. Itachi was the most recent book I got. But, yeah, that is pretty much all the books that have been released. There's no bad book of this entire set. Not really, no. Do I think this book should be adapted for the anime? Yes, definitely. Ideally, Itachi's one been adapted. So is Sasuke. I'm not really sure why Viz Media just takes their sweet time releasing these books. I would say the ones released in Japan, I'd say that Gaara. There's actually about also 3 other books, mind you. Yes, there's one focused on Kakashi and Shikamaru. There's another one focused on Naruto Hinata, and even one focused on Sasuke and Sakura. Well, focusing on the early days of their actual relationship they had. Those books I would love to see released here. Yeah, those books are, because, let me move the actual document here. Let me see here. Those books are called the Naruto Rasendan. Yeah, that is what that one was called. Yep. Rasendan. That was simply put the name of the book itself. And there was like 3 other ones: Kakashi, Sasuke, and Naruto. I would love to see these books released. These books were actually 2 years ago. You're thinking, really? Yeah, and also the three, the Naruto, Shikamaru, and Sasuke, those were part of the Shidan series. That was a series that was released here, but for some reason, Ninja Scrolls were not released here for some reason. It was adapted for the anime, but not released here for some reason. Don't know why. It just that's basically where it was. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah, and the other stories ones, that was the Naruto Secret Chronicles. I love these books simply because they're original stories. And I like the original story concept. I'm not always a big fan of the adaptation, but the only one I basically would really want to read is the last. Yep. So that's gonna be pretty much it for this particular review. I was gonna do Fairy Tail today, but I'll probably save it for tomorrow, along with reviews, along with a review for the newest episode of Mr. Kobayashi's Dragon Man. Okay, so next video. Bye.